right, boys and girls, we are here. Game day morning. It's a second Christmas. Welcome into Almost Athletic, presented, of course, by The Common Dad. Whew. It's been a long wait. Got the biggest one tonight. It's the more lead up, the more build up, the more I look at this game, this feels like the national championship. Tonight we have Ohio State and Georgia converging on the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Ohio State shockingly seeking what it feels like to salvage a lost season. Look, when you're an Ohio State fan or when you're an Ohio State player, staffer, whatever, you can win all your games, but if you don't beat Michigan, it's a lost season until further notice. So tonight, Ohio State's looking to salvage that lost season. And if they pull this one off, they'll have potentially the ultimate chance at redemption and getting their rival back in the national title, which I don't even want to think about for two reasons. That matchup makes me so nervous for so many different reasons. I could throw up. But the second reason is this game is so juicy. I have been living in Georgia for almost a combined 10 years, and I have been begging for this matchup. I would have much rather had it when Ohio State was really rolling in like 2014 and 15, and Georgia was terrible, but nevertheless, here we are. And C.J. Stroud looking to legitimize what has otherwise been a fantastic career. The stats say he's one of the best Ohio State quarterbacks of all time, but if he loses this game, I don't want to say he'll be forgotten, but he won't be mentioned among the best quarterbacks in Ohio State history. He'll be in the same breath as a Terrell Pryor. Yeah, he won a lot of games, but what did he actually win? And unfortunately, it's nothing. I love him. He's one of my favorite Ohio State quarterbacks. He's a class act. He's never gotten any trouble. He's been fantastic the entire time he's been here, but it's all about moments in college football, and thus far, C.J. Stroud's finest moment has been a consolation prize on a Rose Bowl against a bad Utah team. So, this is it for C.J. Stroud. I don't want to say this is it for Ryan Day because anytime you make the playoffs, it's crazy that you'd be on the hot seat. But if Ohio State gets blown out tonight, that seat could be a little warm. Lose to Michigan, losing the playoff, Ohio State fans are going to look back at this and go, well, yeah, it was a nice season. What did Ohio State actually win? Harsh, yes, but that's the harsh truth of being in Columbus. The expectations are extremely high. Georgia coming into this game, man, we'll talk about it here in a minute, but they just ooze confidence. They're rolling in. They're looking to make history. They're looking to go back-to-back national champions to join a very, very short list. And it's shocking because you look at this Georgia team, and yeah, they've been great on defense, but if you look at back-to-back national champions, you can just superstar them on offense and defense, and this is not how this Georgia team has done it. It's been with incredible teamwork. So yeah, if they pull this off, I don't think it's going to be a problem with TCU or Michigan, and they'll probably go back-to-back. It feels like Ohio State's the biggest hurdle in their way just because of the matchups, and we'll get into that. And Stetson Bennett is seeking what feels like immortality at UGA. He's already a legend. Whatever happens this game, whatever happens next game, if the college football gods will it so that Georgia wins this thing, he'll be a dealership owner in Athens for as long as he wants. He can sell insurance. He can do whatever he wants. He can just kiss babies and shake hands for the rest of his life in Athens. He won't ever have to buy another meal. But if he goes back-to-back, he won't just be talked about in Athens as a legendary quarterback. He'll be nationally known, which is insane because he's 5'11", 185 pounds, dripping wet. And later on, we got a lot to get to today. It's game day. I got a whole bunch of stuff planned. But Andishawn, I don't know if he's on yet or not, but he brought up in the middle of the week, he compared Stetson Bennett to Tim Tebow, to which my initial reaction was, that's insane. Tim Tebow is one of the best college quarterbacks to ever do it, I think. But when you go and look at the stats, kind of close, and we'll get into that a little bit here. So let's see. We got some comments rolling in already. John Bischoff says Kansas State. Oh, all right. So Bischoff is a degenerate gambler, so he's got some early lines for us here. Kansas State +5 in the Sugar Bowl. He loves +7.5 against Alabama. I don't know about that one there, Johnny Vegas. Isn't Alabama starting Bryce Young? All their guys coming back. I don't know. That's a dicey one. I don't know. But then again, you're the gambler. What do I know? Harold coming in. It's going to be a long day waiting for a night game. Yeah, it is going to be a long day waiting for the night game. So if you're an Ohio State fan and you're upset that this is the 8 p.m. kick, don't be mad at anybody yet yourself, because Ohio State has such a massive fan base. All these games, anytime Ohio State's going to be in the playoff, you can expect that 8 o'clock kick. And by 8 o'clock kick, of course, we mean 8:22 for whatever reason. They just can't get it together. Ohio State, Bischoff coming in. Ohio State line moved to 6.5 to 5.5. The people are betting Ohio State. Wow, it moved a whole point. I checked this morning and it was down to 6, so it's down to 5.5 now. Yeah, a lot of people are betting Ohio State. When I did check this morning, 41 experts at ESPN, the mothership, 2 of them picked Ohio State out of 41. So we'll see. Harold coming in. If you're an Ohio State fan, it's all about championships and the team up north. If you want to be remembered, that is absolutely true. You can, if you're a really diehard Ohio State fans, you can go back and remember some of the best teams. And some of those best, most talented teams, riddled with people like Eddie George, Orlando Pace, some of them didn't beat Michigan. And back then it was all about just beat Michigan, go to the Rose Bowl, and whatever happens as far as voting for a championship, it is what it is. But if you don't beat Michigan, that's it. It doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter if you beat Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan State. Cute, those are fine. If you don't beat Michigan, and John Cooper didn't do it but twice or maybe 3 times, I think it was only twice, you're forgotten. And that's it. I mean, not the only reason, but if Eddie George doesn't win a Heisman that year, he goes down as just another good running back in Ohio State history. I think he did beat Michigan twice, but he also had lost to him. So yeah, if you're an Ohio State fan, it's all about beating Michigan, And Georgia's got some rivals too. I mean, Auburn's, I believe, their biggest rival. Alabama is starting to just become one because they're the 2 best teams. But I've been in Tennessee, of course. I've been in Athens when they've lost to Auburn. I've been in Athens when they've lost to Tennessee. And yeah, it's a problem. It's a bad thing. But not one time that I ever hear, well, they didn't beat Tennessee. They didn't beat Auburn. You got to get them fired. At Ohio State, you lose to Michigan, your seat is immediately hot no matter what you've done. And yeah, I'm having coffee because I had a bit of a late night last night. All right. So, with that being said, if anybody can see, I've got the tube on over here to my right. The first thing I wanted to get to this morning was going to be the injury report. Normally, they come out with that pretty early in the day. I haven't seen it yet. I wanted to get to it because, especially from Ohio State's perspective, who knows what we're going to see, but I haven't seen it yet. So if anybody does see it, let me know, and we'll go through that in detail. So we're going to kind of skip over that one for now. The only update I do have on that is yesterday in the final media day, Ohio State coaches, players, they reiterated that Miyan Williams will be good to go. He'll be fine. He just had a stomach bug. He was seen practicing the last 2 days, which is good. Dallin Hayden, when he wasn't there, was the one taking all the first team snaps. Georgia fans, if you don't know who that is, it's understandable. He's a true freshman running back out of Tennessee, I think Memphis, who had a really good game at Maryland, but that was really the only time we saw him get the bulk of the carries. And Trip Trainum will be the number 3 guy, we think. However, in the Michigan game, he was a starter. So I don't know. I'm hoping this injury report, availability report rather, will shed a little bit of light on that. But Georgia fans, if you're wondering who Ohio State's going to trot out at running back, we don't know either. And I don't know that the coaches know either. So if anybody sees that, let me know. We will jump back to that. I'm monitoring closely to to get that out. For some reason, I thought on bowl games they had to have it out by like 9 a.m. or something like that, but I could be wrong completely. So let's talk about the mindsets of these two teams. Hope everybody has their coffee. It's going to be a long day. And by the way, if you're an Ohio State fan, Georgia fan, pace yourself throughout the day. Okay? I know it's New Year's Eve. I know it's a big game day. You're going to want to make it through the game, through the end of the game. You're probably going to want to even remember the game. So a little pro tip, if you've already started drinking, maybe a couple mimosas, whatever, that's fine. Just chug like 2 glasses of water. Get your hydration. Get your base in, okay? Get your base in. Have a couple mimosas this morning. Pump the brakes on the liquor, okay? Pump the brakes on the liquor, especially if you're going to the game. You're going to want to be coherent when entering the stadium. Find your seat. So just easy on that. Easy, easy, easy. And then I always recommend, if you're going beer, go a light beer. Go 2 beers, have a water. 2 beers, have a water. You'll be fine. And then at the end of the game, go crazy, whatever you want to do. Just, it's going to be a good college football day. You're going to want to actually, watch and enjoy the game. So easy there, easy there. So, all right, let's talk about the Georgia mindset throughout this week. First of all, the immediate media availability for these teams is insane. They have to come out and talk every single day. They answer the same questions every single day, and all the players and coaches are just completely irritated. Almost every question towards an Ohio State player this year had to do with, well, how are you guys feeling about Michigan? And they're just so sick and tired of talking about the Michigan game. But that's what you get at Ohio State. Georgia's mindset, again, I mentioned it at the beginning. The confidence this team, the swagger this team comes in with is, if you're an Ohio State fan, it's a little worrisome. We'll talk about Ohio State's mindset, but Georgia, I mean, this thing is just a straight business trip for them. They've played here. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but this will be the 3rd time they've played. Excuse me. They started the season here with an absolute throttling of Oregon, 55-3, to start the season, and then of course they played the SEC championship game here, won 50-30, and this will be their 3rd game here. And this is their home away from home. It's an hour away from Athens. It's an easy drive for everybody. They hop on the bus and they get down here. It's not a problem. So they know everything back and forth. They're confident in the building. They're confident in themselves. An interesting thing, Georgia's offense is efficient, is good. They've struggled sometimes, Missouri, Kent State, Kentucky this year, but when they're in this building, their offense lights it up. 55 against Oregon, 50 against LSU. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it they light it up. They light it up in this building. So it will be very interesting. Georgia's coming in with a lot of confidence. So Ohio State, I don't want to say they're not confident. They seem a little unsure. They definitely seem pissed off. At least that's what they're saying. They seem to be angry. But that's what Ohio State fans have heard all year. That's we're angry, we're upset, we're pissed off, we're tough because we lost to Michigan last year. So all those things might be true, and they might actually be coming in with a chip on their shoulder. But from an Ohio State fan's perspective, kind of tired of hearing about it. And I don't blame the players. What else are they going to say? We're scared. We're not that upset. So I get it. I understand that's what they're going to say. But from a Ohio State fan's perspective, we're just tired of hearing about all the talk. We want to see it come true on the field. So their mindset, I think, is tough. I think their mindset is a chip on their shoulder. I think it needs to be, but we'll see. This is the first time this team has played in this stadium. This is the first time C.J. Stroud in his Ohio State career has played indoors. That's what this team is built for. Ryan Day built this team like a track team. So this is the ideal conditions for this Ohio State team. They should feel confident. They should be pissed off. When you look at talent for talent, it's pretty even across the board. But again, everybody knows Georgia's coming in as a returning title team, and Ohio State should be playing with house money, but it just doesn't feel like they are. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of team Ohio State is going to roll out as far as a mindset tonight. And I do think that's actually going to be the biggest factor in the game, because the more we talk about it, I don't think the talent is a huge drastic difference, but I don't know. We'll see. We will see. But Ohio State will have to come out with an edge to win this. There's a couple things Ohio State definitely is going to have to do to win this game, and we'll touch on those a little bit. But having that edge is definitely going to be one of them. All right, let's get to this outrageous conversation that a friend brought up in the middle of the week. He compared Tim Tebow, probably the best college quarterback of all time, as far as like a full career goes. If you look at what he did, 2-time champion, Heisman winner, even his first championship at Florida, he wasn't the starter, but he played a crucial role on that team. Harold says Stroud has to run a few times to keep Georgia honest. Yes, not a lot. I don't want to see a JT Barrett impersonation out of him, but if he can give me, I don't even know if it's about yards, what Stroud has to do. I think it's, can you give me 3 first downs just to keep a drive alive? Just give me 3 first downs, and I think we'll be fine. He's been doing it a little more at the back half of the season, so I think we can get that. But again, I don't know. I just don't know. Anyway, Tim Tebow versus Stetson Bennett. So Stetson Bennett, nobody in their right mind would originally think to compare these two. However, the stats say a little bit different. So everybody knows Tim Tebow won 2 titles. He was the main piece in his second title against Oklahoma. He was a important piece on the first title, but he wasn't the starting quarterback. Bennett last year was he was a starting quarterback the whole year. They won the title. He wasn't the linchpin that he is this year, but he was a very, very good game manager last year and made some big plays in timely spots last year. So if Stetson Bennett can pull off another title, he will have the same amount of titles as Tim Tebow. He won't have the Heisman, which is important to remember. So Stetson Bennett this year, well, comparing their senior year, Stetson Bennett has thrown for 3,425 yards on 430 attempts. Tim Tebow, his senior year, 2,895 yards on 81 less attempts. However, everybody remembers Tim Tebow running the ball. This shocked me. He almost ran for 1,000 yards his senior year. He ran for 910 yards. Stetson's got 184. That's the big difference in these two players. Tim Tebow was an absolute wrecking ball. And I didn't even put down how many touchdowns he had, but I'm sure it was a lot. Tim Tebow was a wrecking ball and was a real force in the running game. They would use Tim Tebow like a JT Barrett, just fullback sometimes. So, but if Stetson Bennett can actually pull this off, I don't know. Would you guys consider Stetson Bennett in the same breath as a Tim Tebow if Stetson Bennett went back-to-back national titles? I know in SEC land they would. I don't know how many SEC quarterbacks have ever won 2 national titles, let alone back-to-back national titles. If it's a very, very short list, I'm sure. So, yeah, down here in the South, Stetson Bennett would be immortalized in Athens. They'll put a statue up of him. I'm sure of it. And rightfully so. They should. I don't know if Florida has a statue of Tim Tebow yet, but they should put one up. That whole team was incredible. So, yeah, when it was first brought up, Tim Tebow was like Stetson Bennett, I thought that's outrageous, but maybe not so far-fetched. Now, he's got to go win another national championship, which is a bit of a task. But it's all in front of Stetson Bennett to just be, like I said, immortalized in Athens history. So very interesting comparison there. Let's see. We got a comment coming in here. Let me take a look. All right. Jan says, Jan is just the nicest lady in the whole world. I'm just going to read this because I love Jan so much. She says, great commentary, Justin. Steve and I are here at the game. Oh, all right. They're here in Atlanta. I am also coming to you live from Atlanta, Jan, but I'm at my house in Buford, so we're a little far away. They're hoping for good results. Glad to see Williams back. Hope he's up to game strength. Absolutely. Jan, I think that is going to be one of the keys of this game. Got to have Williams healthy. I hope you guys have a fun time at the game. All right, so let's get back to Georgia a little bit here. And I think this is a fair question to ask, but I have seen some other commentary on Georgia trying to answer the question, is Georgia who we think they are? Here you go. Richard says A.J. McCarron is the other SEC quarterback to win 2 championships. And yeah, he's saying A.J. McCarron is probably a better comparison. Yeah, A.J. McCarron is probably the better comparison. I don't know what A.J. McCarron's stats are right off the bat. But it doesn't feel like, I don't know. I don't live in Tuscaloosa, never have, certainly never will. There is a certain love and affinity for Stetson Bennett and Athens in a similar way that Florida embraced Tim Tebow. I don't know if Alabama fans remember A.J. McCarron for that, because A.J. McCarron, the talent around him was substantially more than what Bennett has. Richard says he was a winner and a team manager. Yeah, I mean, he's very good. He was thrown to Julio Jones, so I think he gets a little bit taken away from him there. But yeah, A.J. McCarron is probably the better comparison there, I think. And A.J. McCarron could actually run the ball a little bit. All right, let's get back to Georgia here real quick. Is Georgia who we think they actually are, who they're advertised to be? I've heard some people saying Georgia struggled with Kent State. Georgia struggled with Missouri mightily. They actually almost lost that game, and if you go back and watch it, it really felt like they were going to lose that game. And they struggled with Kentucky. I don't want to say they struggled with LSU. I mean, that was 35-10 at halftime. They wound up giving up 30 points at the end of the day, but I don't think it was much of a struggle. So, yes, Georgia has shown some chinks in the armor this year. I also don't think the SEC is what the entire country thinks it is. Is it the best conference in college football? Overall, it probably is when you take East and West into account. That's fine. But it's not fair to say, oh, yeah, but Georgia played an SEC schedule. Sure, you did play an SEC schedule. That's fine. But you didn't play Alabama. You didn't play Ole Miss. You didn't play Mississippi State. You didn't play all those teams on the West, which there's a lot of good teams on the West, and that's fine. That's part of what makes the SEC great. But you can't just give a blanket statement and say, yeah, but Georgia plays in the SEC. They play in the SEC East. How many great teams are in the SEC East? Georgia, Tennessee, 2 great teams. Other than that, the next best team is probably Kentucky. We thought it might be Florida this year, but no, I mean, Florida turned out to be pretty fraudulent. And I'm saying that to say this, I don't think the SEC, if I had to take every conference into account, SEC is still probably the best, I think, maybe. They're having kind of a crappy bowl season so far. But opt-outs, it's hard to really take those games into account. But that's not unlike any other conference in the country. If you look at the Big Ten, who are the great teams in the Big Ten? Well, they're all in the East. Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, they're all right there. That's a great side of the conference, but when you take the Big Ten as a whole, it's largely crap. I mean, the next Purdue was in the championship game. If you were to actually look and rank the top 5 teams in the Big Ten, Purdue's, I don't even know if they would be on it. After you get past Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, I don't even know if I would put Purdue at 4. Probably Illinois at 4, even though they didn't make it. I still thought they were better. But anyway, I'm saying all that to say this. Just because Georgia went undefeated in the SEC this year doesn't make them an absolute juggernaut because they went through a tough schedule. But every team in college football this year, every team in college football most year struggle. You can probably point to 3 or 4 champions in the last 20 years that have gone through their schedule undefeated without any challenge, with winning double digits every game. It doesn't matter. It's college football. You're dealing with 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. They're going to have a down day. Ohio State struggled with Northwestern this year. The talent doesn't equate there. Ohio State's far superior in every way, but it was a down game. Like, you're going to have down games in college football. It's not like the NFL, where in the NFL you pretty much know what you're going to get, and you get that every week. College football is very up and down because of who you're dealing with. So I don't fault. Yeah, I think those games, the Missouri game, the Kentucky game, showed some potential weaknesses in Georgia, but I'm not going to say, oh, Georgia struggled with Kent State, so Ohio State's going to walk. No, they just weren't up for the game. They just weren't. If you've ever played any sport in your life at a competitive level, sometimes you just don't feel like playing. And you can look at that and go, oh, they should. They're getting paid NIL money and their scholarships. Sure, all right, you could say all that, but at the end of the day, if you're an Ohio State fan and or if you're an Ohio State player and you go up to Northwestern and it's 50 miles an hour and it's 10 degrees and you know that you could walk over this team sleepwalking, you're just not going to be up for that game. If you're a Georgia player and you're going to Missouri at night, okay, like what juice does that really bring for you? You know you can crush this team. And next thing you know, Missouri scores a couple touchdowns, they get rolling, and you find yourself in a bit of a dogfight. That's college football. That's how it works. It just is what it is. So I don't take too much of that into account. These games, tonight, what we see, we're going to see the best of both of these teams. That's what we're going to get out of this. And last time we saw Georgia in games that mattered, they won 2 in a row and hoisted the national championship trophy. So to answer the question, is Georgia who we think they are? They 100% are. They're the defending national champions. They're undefeated for a second, in the SEC for a second year in a row. Yeah, they're every bit of who we think they are. They're not going to be – Georgia's not going to come in with a Missouri attitude, a Kentucky attitude, a Kent State attitude. That's not going to happen. You're going to get laser focus from Georgia. You're going to get their best game tonight. So don't expect, because they struggled. No. You're not going to get any of that. So, yeah, Georgia is absolutely who we think they are. And we're going to probably see Georgia's best game this year. And Ohio State better be ready to match it. I have my picks at the end here. I can see this game going one of two ways. I wouldn't be all that surprised if Ohio State got blown out. We've seen it before, Ohio State fans on this stage. Ohio State has a very volatile team, very volatile offense. They're either really high or really low. Georgia's just steady, right? If this was stocks, Ohio State's Bitcoin, right? They can be great or it's up and down. Georgia's like a Dave Ramsey mutual fund, baby. They're just right down the middle. You know what you're going to get with them every single week. And they're going to bring it. They're absolutely going to bring it. Harold says we need to take shots down the field. Yes, 1,000%. That's going to be I'm going to talk about past the victory here in a few minutes. But yeah, shots down the field are absolutely going to be it. Let's see here. So yeah, that's who we're going to get. Let's talk about a couple matchups. And I don't want to keep you guys too long today because I know everybody wants to get to game day. So we're almost finished up here. We're going to touch on a couple past the victory here. We're going to do some picks. So the matchups we're going to be looking at as an Ohio State fan, Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Kelee Ringo. As Harold just said, shots down the field. That's where your shots are going to be made. Georgia's going to put their best defenders on there, which is probably what Kelee Ringo physically matches up with him really, really well. But Harrison Jr. is just better. So C.J. Stroud, take your shots there, and don't expect Harrison to be Ohio State open. He might be covered, but a 50-50 ball to Harrison is a 70-30 ball. Sometimes don't throw it up all the time, of course, but he's going to be slightly covered. Just get the man the ball. That's all you got to do. Get the man the ball. So that's the matchup for Ohio State, I think. For Georgia, I just put down Jalen Carter versus the state of Ohio. By any means necessary, Ohio State is going to have to find a way to block this man. And don't get me wrong, you're not going to block him all the time. He's going to get through. He's going to make plays. You have to avoid the catastrophes. CJ Stroud, if he breaks through for a sack, just hang on to that ball. Just take it. Just take a sack if you need to take a sack. You can't have a fumble, scoop, score. One of the scary things about this Georgia team is they feed off each other so well. When the defense is playing well, it feels like the offense is playing better. When the offense is playing better, the defense feeds off of it. Turnovers, Georgia will feast on. Absolutely feast on the entire team. They're a fierce, nasty, ultra competitive. You'll see it. They love their team so much. They get up, they get hype, so they will feast. It's a feeding frenzy when they get going. You have to avoid those big plays. Just can't happen. Cannot happen. So just block Jalen Carter however you can. Put an extra tight end in the game. Mayan Williams, do some chip blocking. Whatever you got to do. Just get a hand on him. Don't let him wreck the game. He's going to get his. He's a great player. Don't let him wreck the game. You can't have Jalen Carter do what Aaron Donald did to Cincinnati in the Super Bowl, where he just trashed the whole game. It didn't matter what anybody did, but that guy wrecked it. You can't have Jalen Carter do that. Ooh, Mary's coming in with them. Ohio State is ready to have their linebackers manned up against who wrote this comment for Mary? Who wrote this? Ohio State is ready to have their linebackers manned up against those big athletic tight ends. As ready as they could be. I think they have quite an advantage at tight end, but they would have an advantage over anybody at tight end in the entire country. Or do you think we'll have to shift into more zone coverage from a linebacker's perspective and cover the middle of the field? Yeah. I don't know who wrote that. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of zone defense because I don't think man is going to be the answer here. A lot of zone blitzes. 2014, Steve Miller pick six. Maybe that could be in the cards tonight for Ohio State. So, yeah, a lot of zone blitzes, I think. Yeah, they're going to have man. It's part of Ohio State's identity as a defense. There's going to be some man coverage, but I don't think you can live and die in that. I think that would be very, again, I use the word volatile for Ohio State. Hold on, guys. My computer's not charging, so that could be an issue here. Come on. There we go. All right. So, yeah, I think Ohio State's going to do a lot of man defense here. So we'll see. The path to victory for Ohio State, it's kind of one way. It's got to be C.J. Stroud absolutely cooking, ripping it, playing with confidence, and Ryan Day is going to have to coach a game, back in 2018 against Clemson, 2019 against Clemson, where he's walking that line of fearlessness and recklessness, but he's pulling it back just enough. So it's going to be tricky there for Ohio State, but that feels like the only path. Limit the big plays from Georgia. It's got to be C.J. Stroud. It's got to be Ryan Day. Those feel like the only two answers for Ohio State. Georgia's path to victory, quite simple. Just do what you've done all year. Be consistent. Wait for the other team to make mistakes. The way Michigan choked Ohio State out of that game is the same thing Georgia's going to try to do. They're going to be not methodical on offense. They're going to run the ball. They're going to control the clock. They will take some shots down the field. But Georgia's biggest asset in this game will be their offense, keeping Ohio State's offense off of the field. They're going to control the clock, run the ball. That's what they're going to do. If Georgia does what they've done all year, they will win this game. There's no doubt in my mind. They will absolutely win this game. All right. Let's get to some picks. I haven't seen the injury report yet, so we'll have to wait on that. So let's get to some picks. Let's talk about this Michigan game. Michigan versus TCU kicks off at 4 p.m. I haven't thought a whole lot about this game. Obviously, most of my time has been spent breaking down this game. Max Duggan and TCU. Max Duggan seems like Superman sometimes. He just does everything. But I think Michigan is just too good on the offensive line. Back-to-back offensive line of the year. I think they're going to do what Georgia's going to try to do to Ohio State. They're just going to slowly choke TCU out of this game. I think it's going to be close. It could come down to the last drive with Max Duggan, but it just feels like Georgia's going to take control in the fourth quarter and make the plays that need to be played. I'm going to go Michigan in this game. I'll say 27-23 Michigan. All right, let's get to the one that matters. Ohio State versus Georgia tonight, 8 p.m. When this matchup first started, I was pretty nervous, pretty terrified. The more I dove into it, I don't know as an Ohio State fan if I've just been talking myself into it or if I actually feel like there are some matchups Ohio State can expose. At the beginning of this week, I thought, no, Ohio State's probably going to lose by a field goal or so. But as Woody Hayes once said, nothing purifies the soul like a thorough ass-kicking. And that's what Ohio State had happen to them against Michigan in November. So Ohio State comes in with a blank sheet of paper. They can rewrite who they've been. They can rewrite who they are this year. Come out firing on all cylinders. Throw caution to the wind. Rip the freaking ball down the middle of the field, CJ Stroud. All conventional wisdom tells me that Georgia should win this game. Not by a lot, but it tells me they should win this game. But I'll be damned if the Almost Athletic podcast, the first series we do, I pick Georgia over Ohio State. I've been waiting on this game for too long. Give this thing. We're going to go. That's right. Ohio State, 38. Georgia Bulldogs, 34. CJ Stroud leads the Buckeyes down on a game-winning drive, and they go to the national championship game to beat Michigan. Harold says 41-38. Yeah, I think we're going to have a close one. Guys, tune in for the game tonight. You can watch all 22. ESPN's got a bunch of different broadcasts. Go watch them all. You can see every angle of the game you want. I'm so excited for this game. This is it for Ohio State. I've been waiting for this matchup for 5 years. This thing is painful. I won't take it off live because I think I'm going to have to take a hammer to this thing. But this is it. Buckeyes take the victory tonight. Thank you guys so much for listening to this series. It's been so much fun. I don't know what our next episode's going to be. We'll get that out, but we're definitely going to come back with more. This has been a blast. So if you've commented, you've liked, you've shared, thank you so much. Richard says 42-31. I love that. Thank you guys so much for joining in. It's been an absolute blast. We will be back. We'll put out on social media what we've got. Harold says they'll be drinking through a straw. I hope so. This has been the Almost Athletic podcast presented by the Commodad. Thank you guys 1,000 times. I'm going to go try to pry this thing off my head. We will see you next week. I don't know. Go Bucks.